And we are recording on everything. Fuck yeah. Hey, we had to cut check-in short on this live call. So this is a members call. What's happening now? There's a lot of things going on, but this is a little webinar presentation that we're doing for the Way of the Sexual Man. If you want to know how to get the Way of the Sexual Man, it's super easy. It's actually free. So right now, as you're watching this, if you're watching this on the live feed on Facebook, everything may not be edited together, but you can go on the Austin Men's Development Group and you can check out this little post. So I put the Way of the Sexual Man, and I made the announcement that I'm going to do this. And there's a couple different articles that you can find, but this one here is super cool. And actually, I had it already pulled up to here, and it has to do with long distance relationships. And I made it last year or about 9 months ago. There's a podcast that's attached to it, and a video, and all this other sort of stuff that is attached to it. But all the way at the bottom, you can get this like really cool package, and this is super, super awesome. So the Instant Connection course, so you get that. And then you also get these 3 quick guides. And I'm probably going to switch this up pretty quick. So if you're watching this and you haven't gotten it, get this. Just because there's so much given here, and partially why I'm making this video, that it can be hard to use. So I'm probably going to limit this because the Instant Connection course is pretty fucking awesome. That will change your fucking life. And Seducing the Female Mind is pretty fucking awesome. We did a webinar on that last week. The Easy Date Guide, we also did a webinar on that during the week this week, just because somebody had a question about it. And the Way of the Sexual Man is fucking badass. If you click this, basically a pop-up comes up, you put in your email, all that sort of stuff, you press this, and it gets emailed to you. And actually how the email sequence works is you'll get the Instant Connection course first, or the first video of that. And then second, what you get is email breaking down all the PDFs. So they kind of come like 5 minutes apart or whatever. So just be patient for it. But here's man, this is just, there's so much happening here that it's like just super, super awesome. And then also one thing, guys, that I just want to mention here, if you're not on the Austin Men's Development Board and you're watching this on YouTube, really do it. There should be a link in the comments on how to join it because it's the fucking shit. It is awesome. It's free. So it does have components that run into problems with free boards where there's like a lot of people that are just kind of like, kind of trolling or those sorts of things. But really, it's an amazing group. It's, in my opinion, it's the best free board. And I'm not just saying that because it's my thing, but I'm saying that because we really built up an amazing group of guys. I've been coaching for a long time, but I've had online groups running and active, and we're on our 7th year now. So there's guys who've been participatory in these online groups that really know how to make it work and make it clean and make it good and post up good content and give good feedback for 7 years. And then there's all sorts of new blood. So the beauty of a community is really unbelievable. You got guys that are more experienced than you. You have coaches like myself always participating in it, and even guys who are in the fitness realm and all sorts of different areas of your life. But then you also have guys that are right probably where you're at. And I don't know where that is, but that's beautiful to see that work in progress. And you also have people starting out at a different area than you. So that could be lower than you, or maybe in just a different area of their life that they're focusing on. And when you can see those things and that growth happening, it's super cool. In fact, excellence cannot happen without a community. It cannot happen without people interacting. If you're doing it by yourself, it's going to fail. So that's what's so awesome. Now, what we're going into here, and if you're watching on the Facebook feed, you're only going to get this video and audio right now. But later we'll slap it all together in editing. So probably in a day or maybe a little bit more than that, day and a half, you'll see the full video of this. But for the guys who are on our members call, that we're doing right now on Sunday, we're going to switch to show and preview a lot of the content. Another thing that I'd like to point out here, this is awesome. Man, we're going to go over the Way of the Sexual Man today. And this is the fucking coolest shit, right? So foundations of excellence. This is all we're going to be talking about for the next couple months in Austin Men's Development, is that how do we achieve personal excellence? How do we achieve the best areas of our life? How do we get that to, man, just shine in every way? So whatever we're looking at, whether it's our purpose, our focus, our bodies, our minds, to really work as an orchestration of what we have, man, and not build what we call a shelf of success. So we see that a lot where people get really good at making money, or really good at meeting women, or really good at getting fit, but the rest of their life is out of place. What happens is whether you want to or not, that really good at making money starts to build a shadow over the rest of your area of life until it collapses, and it will not sustain. And so when we look at excellence, when we look at what we do with men at Austin Men's Development, that is it. This PDF that we're going to cover now that you can get for free just by going to thesexuallife.com/133. That's where you get the long distance relationship article. And you can get the free download of that and the instant connection course and the seducing the female mind and all the date guide and all that sort of stuff, is exactly this. How do we find the balance? How do we find it? How do we work towards it? How do we get that excellence? And how do we move towards this? All right. So this isn't just about like being good or something you just kind of do or whatever. This is something that, number one, you can do right now. Okay. And you can start to implement it in your life, and it will help you achieve to be the best possible expression of yourself. So let's jump to that. So let's say we opened up our email and all that sort of stuff, and we find, boom, this beautiful PDF, The Way of the Sexual Man. So guys, there's something that happens when we start engaging in all the things which make us a man. Okay, when we start engaging in our sex, when we start engaging in what we want, our intention, when we start being honest about who we are and broadcasting that out to the world, that a certain way of life comes up. And it's very different than the way of life that's probably sold to you throughout the industry of men's development, seduction, fitness, because a lot of those times it's selling to desperation. You know, it's selling to a point of view that's in pain, that's seeking the opposite of that pain to get better. So if you're fat, you're going, man, if I could just get in shape, if I could just lose a little bit of weight, man, I'd be good. I know they're promising being shredded, but I don't care. I just want to get 10% of that and I'll be happy. Or, man, I'm lonely. I'm jerking off to porn. I don't have any relationships, or all my relationships suck, or I just went through a divorce and I'm in pain and I'm that guy that's hurt. And fuck, you know, these guys, you know, I might not be exactly like them. I don't want to wear a furry hat, or I'm not being some immature kid, but if I could just get a little piece, you know, of that information, I'm going to go for it. And when we make decisions with our desperation, when we buy into that idea that I'm this desperate man that needs to be fixed all the time, we make a lot of stupid decisions. I'll tell you this, man, anytime that you make a decision based off of your pain, it's a flawed decision. And so we want to get away from that. We want to build a dialogue and a community, what Austin Men's Development is, of men who are seeking excellence. And excellence is only defined by you. So personal excellence, how you define that. This is the way of the sexual man is going to break that down for you. It was funny because I went over this PDF when I made it in 2014 or 2013. I should actually look that up. But it was in 2014 that I went over it with him, and it was a marketer. And he said, man, The Way of the Sexual Man is such a non-sexy title. And I was like, man, I don't give a shit. This is content that is absolutely necessary, that comes from experience of men consistently going through our process that we did at TSL, where we're looking at our social lives, our sexual lives, into a lifestyle that have a consistent life of what happens. Okay, so this is about being proud. This is about owning who you are. This is about seeing sex as a good thing and not as a bad thing. And although we may get that expression wrong sometimes and end up in a bad relationship, we may get into a rut where we are lonely. We may get into a place where things aren't working for us, but we can absolutely 100% have the tools to work past it, find our best path, and feel fucking good about who we are. Okay, that's what matters. You start doing that, you start hanging out around this group, that's what's going to happen to you. All right, so there's a whole bunch of different references in here and stuff to read, especially at the beginning, to just kind of know our process. But let's just dive into this right away, because there's just 5 things. We'll cover them quite quickly. And because we are on our Sunday members call, we want to dive into the dialogue of that, which, sorry if you're on this webinar or Facebook feed, that gets cut short, but more the reason to be a member. Okay. So the number one thing that we're going to cover here. All right, so the first thing, I don't want to say the number one thing because they're all kind of equal, but the first thing that we're going to cover here that is so important for men to get, all right, that separates us from that fanboy culture, the desperate man syndrome, the rest of the culture that's all this crap and static out there. The first thing is that we learn to act on our intent. Okay, now with all of these things that I'm bringing up, they're going to mean something a little bit different to a guy who's experienced with life and has some confidence, to a guy that is just learning it. All right. So to a guy that's experienced life and has some confidence, let's say he's achieved a high level of success in his business life, or he's achieved a high level of success in his relationships or fitness, but everywhere else is kind of, we're looking for other things. But we have that point of reference towards knowing who you are. Act on your intent makes total sense. Go for what you want. Do it. Man, you need to be able to speak your mind. You need to be able to present yourself. You need to be able to put that out there, whether that's sexual, I like you, whether that's you want this job, I want this job. Whether it's you need to stand up for yourself in a certain area, or whether it's just going for the directions that you want in your life. You need to be able to do that, because if you're not, you're faking it. This is one of the things that we get into with everything, whether it has to do with dating, whether it has to do with fitness, whether it has to do with life's purpose. People go for the result and what's going to work for the result rather than what they want and why they want it. They forget the what and the why of who they are when they go for that result, and that builds you into a bad life. Okay, so a guy that has achieved that point of reference gets that. Okay, and we can make that metaphor of like, look, you got to start going for what you want. What would happen if you lied in your business life or misrepresented yourself? So in your dating life, let's start having a way of looking at how we're going to present our truth in a way that women can understand it and people around us can understand it. We don't divide people. So we can say, I like you. So we can start speaking with our dicks and our balls and our masculinity and not hiding from that in order to just get a result of people liking us. That was a terrible, terrible thing. But then there's this group of guys that also has no experience. So there's nothing wrong with this, because there's plenty of you out there. There's probably about 1 out of 3 people who come to TSL, who come to the sexual life, that are in this area where it's like you have approach anxiety, you have social anxiety, you don't have a lot of experience, you've never had a girlfriend. If you did have a girlfriend, it didn't feel right. You don't have a confidence of where that is and who you are with that. Now, acting on your intent might seem like something overboard, and a lot of times we make it overboard. The best thing that you need to do is take a step back, normalize it, see it as a normal thing and not a big deal that you need to jump to and go on all these exaggerated ways of life and force yourself to do something, but start realizing what intent and intention is, what your want is, and how normal that is. And so wherever you're in deficit, whether that's your dating life or your professional life, a lot of times, like for me, I'm always go, 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 go. When I'm learning business or when I'm learning a new thing with marketing or whatever it is, I'll go too far to the extreme. This is when you don't have a point of reference and you're not that guy who understands that. I want you to get away from that. I want you to start getting into going for what you want and seeing that as a normal thing. So if I'm going for something with women and I have social anxiety, I want to start off with the basics. I want to learn how to say hello. I want to learn how to talk to people. I want to learn how to have a baseline conversation with all people before I make it about tens or hot chicks or what women want, because I don't know. I don't have a sexual point of reference. Okay, I don't get those things that other people get. In business, I don't have a point of reference of how a sale works or how supply and demand works. And I start spamming stuff out there and I just go for the results. And I forget that what and why behind it. And I tank myself. I basically shelf myself. I collapse it, right? So we want to go with those basics of our intent and get in touch with the want and be able to put it in action. Very, very important. All right. And although this is a concept, there's a lot of dialogue that can be had on this board right now with a group of men. And I guarantee you on the Sunday calls, the last 2 Sunday calls, it's been pretty epic. The last one went for like fucking 15 hours or some insane amount of time, but there was insane things talked about. We'll talk about this stuff. How do we work intent in our professional lives? How do we work intent? How do we get confused by it? How do we think we're failing when we go for our intent? What does our mind tell us? What do our emotions tell us? And our mind and our emotions are good things, but they lie to us all the time about the direction that we're in. But we need them to be ourselves. So we got to learn how to communicate with that. All right. So let's build a dialogue on that. We do that, we're going to achieve excellence. We're going to achieve a great direction. You're going to achieve a good life, but it takes investment from you. All right. I need you working. All right. So the second thing is connect. Connection is such an amazing principle. All right. The reason why we need to connect with people is because it gives us the transformation, and it also allows us to see, how the rest of the world works. And when we really think about this, it's a principle of life. All right, so let's get a little philosophical here. All of life, anything living, expresses itself. It puts itself out there in the world. You see a plant, it puts its leaves out. It does all these things. It doesn't think about them. It just does them. And this is our interpretation of it. but the value of its expression, the value of its putting itself out there in the world, the value of doing what it does is all dependent on what and how it connects with that. It was interesting too, because we were talking about indigenous cultures and diet on the call that we had last night. And we were talking about all these different tribes. We were talking about like paleo stuff and ketogenic stuff. But the interesting thing is a lot of indigenous tribes, and this was one of the things that's brought up, and I'm paraphrasing here. I'm not an anthropologist or a scientist in any means, but they were talking about these Sri Lankan tribes that are just eating roots and potatoes. And they did not do as successfully as other tribes in Sri Lanka that seemed to progress more. And part of the reason for that was possibly their diet. But so a different expression gets a different result. How do we connect with that expression, right? We take this over into the emotional realm. All right. How do I know what my intent means? How does my intent have value is to my masculinity, to make me proud of who I am, to make me know who I am so that I can speak and like, I'm not trying to be confident. I'm not trying to be whatever. I'm not trying to have an identity of myself. I'm not faking it. Why? Because my intention was true and it connected with somebody. So if I'm putting myself out there, if I'm putting what I want out there, and even if I'm going up to a woman and saying like, look, you are beautiful, and she says no, the connection is gone. And then, and this is really interesting. This is an inner game thing where you guys should all think about. You express yourself out there, and we're all so afraid of it. You're afraid to put yourself out there, and I've had it too, and I still get afraid about things. But that intention is good. So I put it out there, put it out there, put it out there. When it doesn't connect, it kind of bounces back at me. Oh man, what's wrong with me? Why am I screwing up? What's happening? Oh my God, this isn't for me. I should just quit. And we think about this in any expression that we put out. We express with our career. We express with maybe a diet or something that we're trying for, a competition. And it doesn't hit. The connection doesn't even hit. It doesn't even get acknowledged. So immediately it starts bringing up all these insecurities about ourselves that we have to look at. That's one awesome thing about a disconnect that you should look at. But when it does connect, that's where the value comes from. See, it's interesting. We look at the result of getting that connection, but we do not look at the true value of it defining me, of it making me. I can't have any awareness of what my masculinity is without the connection of sex. I cannot have any awareness of what my masculinity is without the connection of friendship. I don't have worth of self unless I am truly connecting with the world. And that's why we need to keep our connections genuine and our intention, our broadcast and expression pure. All right, authenticity is a key thing. So, and just let me just break this down as well. Connection on just a very, very basic level. It takes two different things and makes a new thing. That's exactly what sex is. A male and a female come together, and sometimes when that happens, a new life comes out of it. Two different things become one for a little bit to give birth to a new thing. Man, connection is the essence of life. It is a principle. It is what happens with us, and it's such a beautiful thing. And it can be whittled down all the way to the lowest level social dynamic, principle of business, principle of self-empowerment, or anything that you look at, because it's a principle of life. All right, it's a complete expression. Unity, or to unify. This is key. Hence why the Austin Men's Development Board is here. It is community first. The reason why it is community first is because people change with that. All right. The reason why I work so hard at building it up and why I've always done that. I mean, man, once I started community teaching, I did not stop. And I'll tell you the story. In 2009, when I started TSL Online, I had a lot of different people that I taught in LA. I'd fly there, people in Arizona, people in Atlanta, people in Florida, people all over Texas. And I would work with them. I was like, man, it would be awesome if we could come together, because so many of you guys interact. Like my friend Alex in Vegas, and my friend Russ, who's in San Diego. Man, I wish you guys could connect. Like, it would be fucking awesome. And sometimes they did and sometimes they didn't. But as soon as we actually started this very different thing, TSL Online in 2009, where we started interacting on a board, man, community changed it all. And since then, it's become a massive group, which now has spilled over into this free group, Austin Men's Development, where everything changes, man. I truly believe connection, two things coming together, changes everything, right? And when we have that unification and groups, and man, so much happens, so much power comes from it. But another thing that is so beautiful about unity that you really, really got to understand, and definitely give this a look in the PDF. And I'll actually show you after I'm done with this short presentation where you can find this on the membership site, because there's a webinar and a PDF on this on the membership site for the paid monthly guys who are on the Sunday call. Because I want you to use this stuff, is that when you get in touch with a unity, like we are a group that is community first, that is focused on personal excellence. When we start to unify on that, when I start sharing about that, my journey of it, which is different than yours, and I start doing ice baths, or I start doing jujitsu stuff, or I start doing business stuff, or I talk about my relationship, and I start sharing, but the unifying principle is like, man, this is a community, and this is my expression and my attempt for today at personal excellence. We start changing in all these sorts of different ways. You know, like Oliver shows that in a different way. Maddie shows that in a different way. You know, Josh will show that in a different way. Gary will show that in a different way. And that unification accentuates our individual expression. When that happens, it's amazing, man. When that happens, it is fucking awesome. That's what we've proven with TSL Online, TSL Life, and now with our Foundations of Excellence course. This is the shit, man. All right. Let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is one of my favorites because I love talking about it. Anytime we talk about sex, in all my sex videos, you hear this, but live your dark side. Whoa. So what does that mean? All right. Everybody, I was just thinking about this last night, independent of knowing I was going to do this, but last night I was thinking about this and I was like, everybody is so concerned about not pissing people off. Everybody's so concerned about doing something which is going to make everybody happy. Right. And, you know, it's a natural thing to do. If you see that certain things are pissing you off, like you don't want to do them. You don't want to piss other people off. You don't want to hurt other people. You don't want to cause a reaction that makes somebody like really upset. But the problem is social media and stuff's moving so fast. People are getting upset all the time. You're going like, oh my God, this cause, that cause, da 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 da. And we get so bound up to it. And then we stop living our expression. I start going, you know what? I love women, so I'm only going to share a message where women are good. You know what? I love business and ethics, so I'm only going to share a message where business and ethics are good. And we start sharing this idea that is limiting a certain part of us, the dark side. Guess what? There's a side of business where you say, no, I have to take. Now, in order to get to the ethical side of that, in order to get to where that is a side that you can make a decision of what's right and wrong or when to act certain areas in your life, in order to do that, you need to be able to know your dark side. You need to know what that's like, and you need to make the decision not to do it. With women, this happens all the time. Men are like, you know what, man, I get this all the time from my like guilt-ridden PUA coaches or retired, or they've moved on to something else. They don't call themselves PUAs anymore or whatever it is. But there's so much guilt wrapped around it because at one time they were like, I'm going to fuck bitches. And then they grew out of it. Wouldn't it be a better discussion to say like, man, there's a time in your life where you get really involved in this, you do some stupid shit. And you're like, I'm going to fuck bitches. I'm going to get laid as much as possible. I'm going to do da 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 da. And then some years pass, you get a relationship, you look at some fucked up things in your life and you kind of grow out of it or whatever. And then you're all of a sudden going like, no, that is wrong. No, man, that's a big part of it. So you know what makes me sane in my relationship? You know what makes me be able to have a good relationship? Let me just say this, man, there's not too many pickup coaches that have relationships that can even function, let alone like live together and have kids and have a good life and progress in those ways. But you know how I make that work? Because every Saturday, every Thursday or whatever it is, once a week, I sit around with my friends, I smoke cigars, talk some shit, and I go, man, fuck, this sucks. You know what she fucking said? Jesus Christ, man. Maria's a bitch in these ways. She gets all aggro, and I just want to say, shut the fuck up and get out of the house or whatever, right? And then I come back home and I'm chill. And if those things that I'm reacting to that are a little bit too much, then I work on them. But I have to be able to work on them with the context of a group where I can be open and express and talk about different things. And I'll tell you this, man, like so much of us, we limit with ourselves and we run from, we say that's a bad thought sexually, that's a bad thought business-wise, that's a bad thought in terms of friendship, that's a bad thought in terms of, you know, selfishness that I have. I need to repress that. I need to get rid of it. I need to ignore it. No, you need to get to know it and start learning to have the responsibility of choice in your life. That's what makes you a man. It was funny. I was talking to my buddy the other day. He's a man of interesting wisdom. He said some funny things. He's man, he said some funny fucking things, dude. He was sitting there talking to me. He's married. And he goes, sometimes I'll be talking to my wife and I see her. She gets all angry and I just say, hey, chill out. Chill out. You look like you're going to hit me. You look like you're going to take me out. And you better not do that. I'm just going to go do this. You do that. And we'll come back together and see if we're good. And I say, and he's like, man, sometimes she comes at me like she is going to fucking beat my ass. And I go, no, man, Maria really well hit me. And he just stops and he goes, that's the difference between a white woman and a Hispanic woman. But he also said, he's like, man, I hate all this sex addict stuff. We're all fucking sex addict. Every human being is driven by sex through advertisements, through everything, and we all want to get laid. We all get in touch with that pleasure. But the thing is, you got to start having sex and you start to realize what it means, because that's the responsibility you have as a sex drive. To know what true pleasure is, you got to dive into it, man. You got to get to know what sex is. Stop individualizing yourself with this shit. Now, that being said, true sex addiction is some like fucked up stuff, and that's probably what my 21 convention speech is going to be about. So we'll get into it there. But you have to know your dark side. And actually, me being in recovery, having major drug problems, knowing a real hell, like, man, I know some dark side shit, right? With sex, with drugs, with that whole culture. You know what? It's the best part about me. Something that I'm the most proud of. It's something that's given me the greatest value, especially as a coach, but also as a depth of a human being. And it's also made me value my life and everybody else's life to a much higher degree. That sort of torment and hell and living within the dark side and then being okay, well, hey, that was some dark side stuff. It allowed me to get a way better perspective than I think a lot of people were able to pull out of just their normal average lives. So that's there. This last one is live love. Okay, so number 5, we have to live our love. We need to realize what this is about. Okay, so being a man, having all these traits, and this is something that pisses me off about the whole men's development industry, is that there's so much of this like alphaness. Because again, people are selling to your pain. Don't buy it. They're selling to your pain. You feel weak because you've been sitting in a computer chair making money and doing those things that you're supposed to do as a guy, or whatever it is, or maybe you got lost in some certain area and you're like, God, I got to be tough. I'm going to go join an MMA gym or whatever. Or when I see these programs, they're out like training on the beach and fighting each other. I actually walk into an MMA gym and you can just do that every day with probably a real legitimate fighter who's much better than what they're doing. But what this is all about is that we live a good life. We live our love, and we get into that expression of what that is. None of these things, all 5 of these things, are not big deals. They're not things that you need to strive for. They're little points on a map that you're naturally going to get to in a life. And especially if you're building a community with people and interacting in those ways, that it's just so simple. This is about loving people. This is about loving yourself and having the people in your life that really mean that, that means something to you. You're only going to get that from being able to broadcast your intention, right? You're only going to get that from connecting with it, from unifying with people. You're only going to get that from being true and honest about the dark sides of you, or the sides of you that are not as socially acceptable, right? When you get that, it's very easy to live what you love and do what you love. And that is so important. We negate that. We forget that as men, that God, so much of our feelings, well, actually, all of our feelings are amazing. And we limit them to hit a template rather than let them process and move around, even when we don't know what they are. Somebody on the call talking about that, going through a heavy emotional time, and it's confusing. But man, we need a group where we can unify on this stuff to be able to talk about it. Just say, hey, that's where I'm at. We were also talking about failure last night. And so many of us get in our heads about failure and in the process of seeking a path of excellence in any area of our life, where we hit a wall, we get stagnant, it stops working. We run out of gas, and then we go, hey, you know what? This isn't for me. This sucks, blah, 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 blah. And we measure ourselves by the day or by the week, and rather than by the entire progress of what we've done for the last 6 months. And, that's really something that is, goddamn, man, like really something that we forget about. When we can be our total expression, that's how we get to the love. And when we get to our love and we start to remember what that is, use that as your guide, as what to follow. And let me just say again, if you make choices from desperation and pain, You're that asshole who gets a little glimpse of love, or you're not the asshole, you're the victim or whatever it is. But be responsible. There's no fucking victims. You're that guy that is so starved for love, for intention, for masculinity, or whatever it is. And when you get that little bit of love from whoever's giving it to you, whatever it is, the Tony Robbins program, which could be a great program, the pickup program, the whatever, you get that little bit of love, you follow it. Like you're an animal, like you're something that doesn't make a choice and something that doesn't grow from it. So when you find it, realize it's normal. It's available. It's available to everybody. We just got to know where to look for it. In our culture, in our process, and in our growth of who we are, it doesn't always happen. Man, so super cool stuff. If you're interested more in learning really in depth about this, what you should do, all right, is so number one, we can find the article where we can download it for free, as I showed you guys before. Number two, we join the Austin Men's Development Group, which is here. There's all sorts of different stuff that you can do. This is a free group. You can get so much out of it, but there are different things that we sell. And it's like a window to show you just how well, we do what we do. But the first step that I would say to taking it is for a monthly charge. And you can cancel anytime, super easy. You just email me and I stop it. Anybody who's canceled knows it's fucking awesome, man. There's no fucking trying to strong arm you back in. But the best thing you can do is go to the membership. Somebody's asking on the Facebook chat where the article is. If you go to thesexuallife.com/133, you can find it there. But basically, this is the back end of the membership site. There's a whole bunch of stuff here. You can take courses on social dynamics, take part in different challenges, different workouts and stuff like that I do. But if you go to the webinar library, which there's just so many of these, it's super awesome. Like the porn webinar, the date guide webinar, cold reading. Dude, this is some fucking crazy shit right here. But changing beliefs. That is an awesome one. This is like one of the first webinars when we started doing them. And it's really just like very plain and simple. It's badass. It's badass. But Report of Seduction, The Dark Side, amazing. And then The Way of the Sexual Man, you can actually watch a presentation like this where we break it down more thoroughly. And then you can also download it there, but you should have already downloaded it for free by now and gotten it. This is the back end of the membership site. And like I said, there's tons of stuff. But the most valuable thing of the membership site, the hands down best thing, is the call that we're doing right now on Sunday. I'm going to end the live Facebook feed now, but we're going to continue this call. And like I said, last week it went on for like 15 hours. It'll probably go on for 4 or 5 hours more, but some of the most amazing shit is on here, and some of the best coaches and alumni attend this call. And it's the only call like this that happens in the world for men. It's fucking awesome. So if you pay a monthly fee, you can find that at thesexuallife.com/members, or a yearly fee to sign up. It's the best first step that you can take. All right. So there's a lot of free stuff that you got going. But if you did want to take it to a level where you talk to me directly, talking to me, man, everybody else, that's the shit. So these guys on the call right now, there's 15 of them that have been watching this, and they probably want to get to some Q&A stuff. So I'm going to end the Facebook feed. Thank you guys so much for showing up. Whether you are a part of this or not, let's make this community good. This group is meant to be something where we achieve excellence. That takes you going for it and applying little bits of what we put out there and unifying on that pursuit of personal excellence and getting there, while remaining a community. All right. So you all have the opportunity to do that, and let's make it awesome. All right. Cool stuff. Later.